Hello everyone, it's Ethico89 here. Today we're making a tutorial on how to build a basic fusion reactor and showing you an example of a mostly maxed out fusion reactor. Let's get right into the video. I've prepared a crate containing all the materials that you'll need to build this step of the fusion reactor, which is creating the fuel for the reactor, except for some of the upgrades for the Mekanism machines. First things first, you're going to want to build your thermal evaporation towers. In this video, we'll show you two being built, which is bare minimum, just for the sake of the tutorial. Later, you'll see a setup that holds very many thermal evaporation towers to produce a lot of fuel. First things first, you're going to want to prepare a 4x4 square made out of thermal evaporation blocks. You want to make these 18 tall in all. That includes the bottom and the top row. The bottom row is the solid square. The middle 16 rows are all going to be a loop as seen here, and then the top 2 rows will consist of plants like this, with the corners missing, and then the corners will be replaced by advanced solar generators. Now, you'll also need 2 thermal evaporation valves for each tower, and you will need an evaporation controller for each tower. The controller, it doesn't really matter where you put it. You'll want to have the 2 valves. One you can be on the corner, one can be wherever you want. Now, I'll be back in a minute once you build a full size. Next thing that you need is a dense infinite water source, or really any infinite water source, but dense works best if you're only going to use one. So you're going to want to place it on one of the thermal evaporation valves. This provides water for the evaporation tower, which is converted into brine in the tower, which you use to make lithium in the next tower. Now you're also going to need your thermodynamic conductors and your fuel wood heaters. Place the fuel wood heaters next to the thermal evaporation valves, and then you just attach the thermodynamic conductors and attach them to the evaporation valves. These fuel wood heaters can also be replaced by a few other heaters, like for example the resistive heaters, which do work quite well. These heat up things a bit faster, but maybe it's easier to use the resistive heaters, which are just use RF instead of burning fuel. For this video, I'm going to use blocks of supremium coal, which just because they have long lifespans, just for the sake of this video. If you were to do this and use the fuel wood heaters, I would recommend using something such as mystical agriculture to make coal seeds and feed the coal that's made from that coalescence into the fuel wood heaters, or something like that to automate it. Next, you're going to need a few mechanical pipes to attach the 2 towers and feed the brine into the next tower. So you're going to want to attach them to the ports, and now you're going to need your configurator. Make sure it's set to configure fluids, not to wrench, you don't break the pipe. And then you want to set the pipe on the tower that is producing brine to pull, so that it feeds into this tower. Now you'll see that this is filling up with lithium as it's getting brine. So now you're ready to make this fluid into a gas. You're going to need a rotary condensator and a way to power it. So you want to put your rotary condensator, wrong side, right there. You need to attach another pipe to an expiration valve and feed it into the Rotary Condensator. Then you're going to want to toggle the operation so that it's turning from a liquid into the gas lithium. Oh, and I'm just going to mention now, you probably want all of these maxed out, whether you're doing a simple design and build such as this, where it's not going to be producing too much RF, but still a good amount, or if you're going to do a large scale, like a large scale fuel production for the reactor, you're going to want to max out your machines with upgrades. So speed upgrades, energy upgrades, and those are the main things for the mechanism. So next you're going to need the pressurized tubes. You want to attach 4 of them to the other side where there's an output, so opposite of where you're inputting the lithium liquid, and you want to just put 4 out in some way. Then you're going to put your neutron reactors on top of that. These are convert the gas lithium into tritium, which is going to be one of your main fuel sources for the reactor. Now you just need to attach these so that you can output it, and now you're done with the first step of making fuel for the reactor. Next, you're going to want to start producing deuterium. To do this, you need electric pumps, which need filter upgrades. You're also going to need an electrolytic separator, and you're going to need to make a small water source. First things first, just dig out a small area for your water and make the whole thing an infinite water source. There. Now, place your energy connected to the front face of the electric pump. And remember, make sure these are maxed out and definitely have the filter upgrades in them. That is the most important part, because you need to make heavy water so that it can be turned into deuterium. Now, you're also going to need you're going to need to use your more mechanical pipes and attach them to the top. Now, if you were making a larger scale, I'd recommend using superlaminar fluid ducts for infinite fluid transportation, especially if you have like a huge amount of these, and like for the maxed out reactor using mechanism pipes, you're going to want to use superlaminar fluid ducts. So now, once you start making this heavy water and pumping it out, you're going to want to run pipe down and attach it to the electrolytic separator. Now, if you go look in the electrolytic separator, it produces. No, this is good. It's working. Shoot. Okay, when you go into the electrolytic separator, you'll see that it produces deuterium and oxygen. You'll want to set this to dumping excess, or just dumping on the bottom right corner under where it shows the power in the electrolytic separator, and you want to dump all the oxygen. This is because if it fills up completely on oxygen, it will stop producing deuterium because the oxygen doesn't know where to go. So you want to dump all your oxygen because you don't need it. Now you need. Oh, and this also needs to be powered. Yeah. Now you need to get your chemical infuser. You're on the last step before you can produce, before you can get to building the reactor. So place down your chemical infuser. This already has the different types of fuel in it, but so you can go and see you're making DT fuel from deuterium and tritium. Now this DT fuel is needed to start the reactor, and also any DT fuel fed into the reactor will increase its power generation. Okay, first you want to feed your pipe, your pressurized tubes, into this this chemical infuser to make your DT fuel. Okay, sorry, this was the wrong way. You want to twist it so that when you place it down, the left side is facing the way you want to output the deuterium into the chemical infuser. So this makes your DT fuel. Now you want to run a cable that brings out your tritium and your deuterium, and then you also set these to none so they don't combine. You also want a cable for your DT fuel. So you're going to be inputting all three, because if you're only inputting DT fuel, so the reactor instantly burns through all DT fuel. So if you only input DT fuel, especially with a setup like this, you're not going to produce enough, and the reactor will just shut off. This also needs power, yeah. So you're going to input all three, and so it will first input this deuterium and tritium into the reactor, and any excess will be turned into DT fuel in the reactor to increase power output. You're now done with producing all your fuels. Now you're on the second stage, building the reactor. So for this, you need a reactor controller, 60 reactor frames, reactor port, and a laser focus matrix. Also, something here. Oh, now everything has power. Cool. So, first oh, no. Okay. Over here, this rotary condensator also needs power. All these mechanism machines all need power except this neutron activator, because it takes energy from the sun. Just a solar machine. So now on to the design of the reactor. The bottom layer is a star shape, or more of a diamond. Whatever, it's like a diamond, really. So it starts out with that on the bottom. Then you have a box or a square with no corners here. Also, the way we have this, you're going to want to break that. And these are your reactor ports. Here, you will input your deuterium, your tritium. Ooh, why is that? And your deuterium. Just gonna redo some cabling because because you do need blocks here. You're gonna do a full square with corners in this row. So there we go. And these won't connect yet because the multi-block reactor structure is not complete, so it is unable to connect. So this, just want to move. So now the next row starts off just like the one before this square, and now it's just mirrored. So you have the box with no corners, finished off by a star shape, except this star shape holds reactor port in the middle. Oops, no, sorry, not a reactor port. This holds a reactor controller in the middle. Now you're also going to need one port on the side for RF, or this can go anywhere. It could go there in between the other ports, really, but it is easier to manage this way. You'll also need, on one side, a laser focus matrix, and this is what you're going to use to shoot the laser into the reactor to start it up. Now, finish off the top, and you should get the redstone particles, and this reactor controller should light up, showing you that the multi-block is complete. Also, if you come over to these cables at the reactor ports, you'll notice that they connected now. Now, continuing on, now you're on the third box. So this, you could technically do this with one laser and one laser amplifier, but for the sake of speeding things up, we have gotten all of these, but really you can do whatever you want. Now, first just show you a basic laser. You also are going to want a lever. So, come over to me. So, these laser amplifiers shoot out the laser into the reactor port, and these amplifiers shoot in the direction of where the red dot is at the front, and the red dot goes for the most part in the direction that it's facing you when you place it down. So first things first, this amplifier that's going to be going into the focus matrix, you want to go into the matrix and set redstone to high in the bottom right corner, so that way it won't just constantly be shooting out the laser unless you want it to, because you need this to charge up to about 500,000 before you can shoot it to start up the reactor. So to start charging this up with RF, you need to first provide RF to the laser. Oops, that did not work properly. So we're in this video just using creative energy cubes, but yeah, you can use whatever power source. So as you can see now, this laser is inputting into the laser amplifier, and it is charging up. So you need to wait until this is at 500 capital MRF, so million RF. And we're gonna build this up a bit, and we'll be back once this is charged up as far as it needs. Okay, so here's the setup of what we did. It's not even that many lasers, but this is a good amount, so it's charging up at a decent rate. As you can see when you look inside, right now at 135 million, it needs to get to 500. So what we have here, we have each laser amplifier feeding into this main laser amplifier, and each of the laser amplifiers has 4, and one of them has 5 lasers feeding in on each side. So all of these, they, as in the name, amplify the lasers into this one thing, creating one powerful laser storing what we need, 500 million RF. And then we've just flipped this switch, and it goes into the laser matrix. But before we can do that, you need one thing. Sorry, I forgot to put this in the chest, like a few other things. Well, in the comments, we'll put what you need in there, just so that there's no confusion. So a HOLRAUM, spelled HOHLRAUM, is what you'll need to put in the reactor controller so that the reaction can start when you put in the laser. So you want to take this, and now you want to come over to your chemical infuser. You take the HOLRAUM and place it in the slot right under the DT fuel, and then all of the DT fuel goes into the HOLRAUM. You need 10 buckets in there, I'm pretty sure. So once you do that, you come to the reactor controller, put in your HOLRAUM, and now you wait until the laser amplifier is completely charged. So now we have enough RF in this laser amplifier, and we have the HOLRAUM inside of the reactor. So now just come over, you can flick the switch, shoots the laser in there. Now if you look inside, you can see the reaction start happening. After you flick the laser, you want to come over to the reactor controller and go into fuel. The injection rate is automatically set to 0, and for the reactor to actually work, it needs to be set to at least 2. This setup really only produces enough tritium for the injection rate of 2, so it's not going to produce too much RF, only around, like, it's going to be less than 1 million, because if you come look over at these pressurized tubes, they are, and you crouch over them to see how much tritium's in them, they all show 0, which means it's all instantly being inputted into the reactor. This also means you're not going to be making any DT fuel. So to make a better reactor out of this setup, you need more neutron activators, and you're going to need to produce a lot more brine for a lot more lithium. Now, this setup, because the tritium production is heavily dependent on solar energy, you need to have either a backup or a way to constantly produce tritium. Now, I'd recommend the way to constantly produce tritium. Now, to do this, you're going to need something. RF tools dimensions is the easiest and probably best way to do this. Using this, you can create dimensions that are always day and always at like highest sun, so you get the most RF and most energy from the sun in these machines. And then you can also make them have no weather or always clear weather. That way the clouds never block out the sun. So with RF tools dimensions, yeah, that's what I think the way to go is. But another way you could do it, you probably need a little bit extra tritium production, but you just attach some type of gas storage, like the gas tanks. You probably need quite a few ultimate ones if you're gonna do that using Mekanism storage, and you attach them to this system, make sure it's input and output, and then that way you have a buffer for nighttime. Now here is our setup for our maxed out fusion reactor using Mekanism cables. It clocks out at 31.18 million RF per tick. Now when I said this is max using Mekanism cables, that's because these cables, these pressurized tubes, can't transfer the DT fuel fast enough. See, they transfer only 16,384 millibuckets per tick, and so we're inputting that much into here, and you can't input anymore. So this was the max that we could get. Now, to produce that much DT fuel, you need 4 chemical infusers that are always maxed out on tritium and deuterium. See, we built this entire setup hoping that like the more deuterium it outputted, the more it would input, but we found that didn't work, and it would just stayed at the 31.2 million RF. So you need 4 chemical infusers producing deuterium, plus you need to input the tritium and deuterium like before, and obviously the DT fuel. Now, we went a little overboard over here as well, producing deuterium. You don't need this many. You probably needed like 2 or 1.5 rows of these energy cubes that we had with electric pumps attached on both sides with the heavy water upgrades just like before and all that, producing deuterium. But yeah, that's all you need. Now, to produce tritium, to produce enough to max out the reactor, you need 18 different towers producing brine and 2 producing lithium. And like before, the lithium is outputted into rotary condensatrators. But in this setup, we use 2 rotary condensatrators, each supporting 128 neutron reactors. Now, for our setup, we used integrated tunnels to input the water and output the brine, and then another network to input, one network to input all the water to all of the evaporation towers, and another network to output the brine from these brine making towers and input them into these lithium making towers. Now, so this setup, again, it makes 31.2 million RF, but this takes a lot of materials and a lot of time to make. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. We're just starting out as a YouTube channel, so if you could like or even subscribe, it'd be greatly appreciated. Anyways, see ya.